The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity. Dorothy Parker. Hello Shishas, welcome to lecture 7 on tissues, and particularly we're going to look at tissues of plants. As this is one of the important chapters where you have a lot of important questions as well. First, let me give you a brief introduction about the tissues. So tissues are a group of cells, and they have common origin, and also they will perform similar function as far as most of the tissues, with rare exceptions as well. The study of tissues is called as histology, and they have very much important function in understanding the growth and also the diagnosis like biopsy, autopsy, how diseases can be cured. So most of the medicines will be worked against the tissues. Later they will be introduced to the living things. Alright, but plant tissues, one of the different parts, because the first time plant tissues were discovered by Carl Nageli, and where he named them as so. And also you can see the tissues that are present in the plants are very unique. They won't be moving from place to place, and then and there itself they are going to conduct a lot of functions. And also the growth of the plants is much dependent on the plant tissues as well. So entire plant body is nothing but the plant tissue, I can say, and the fruits you eat and every important part of the plant is nothing but a group of tissue. Alright, let us look at the types of plant tissues. There are different types of plant tissues based on the complexity of tissue, or I can say the differentiation of tissues. So first tissues we are going to look at is the undifferentiated tissues that are gradually able to form the differentiated cells at different parts of the plant body. First is the meristematic tissue. The meristematic tissues are classified into three major types. One is called as apical meristem, that is found at the apex region, particularly the shoot and root tips, and this is one of the primary meristem that increase the length of the plant. And intercalary meristem, so the intercalary region or internodal region of the plant is going to be increased by this particular meristem, so particularly it focuses to increase the length. And the lateral meristem is going to work towards to increase the girth of the plant. Example, the cork cambium. These three, let us have a look at a picture. You can understand more clearly. So you can see the apical meristem here, the intercalary meristem here, the lateral meristem here. So you can see here generally this particular region is called as the apical bud. So the apical bud will have very actively dividing meristematic cells. You can see even this called as the shoot apical meristem. The axillary bud is one of the first region that initiates a lot of differentiation of the plant. Let's look at the complex tissues than the meristematic tissues. If you look at here, the simple tissues. The simple tissues are defined. These are very much differentiated tissues where they are made up of single type of cells. So these tissues will remain in plant body for longer time. So that's why even this called as simple permanent tissues as well, as per your book. So the parenchyma is the first type here. The cells are isodiametric in nature, thin cell wall made up of cellulose, and they have very closely packed, and even sometimes they have the small intercellular spaces, and they perform a variety of tasks from photosynthesis, storage, and secretion. And if parenchyma is associated with chloroplast, so we'll be calling them as the we'll be calling as chlorenchyma. That means parenchyma plus chloroplast. So that's how the name derives. And you can see the common structure of the parenchyma cells here, the distinctive nucleus. That's distinctive nucleus here, and then you can see the intercellular spaces here very clearly, and then you can see the vacuole, one of the biggest vacuole that is pushing nucleus towards the edge, and then the cytoplasm. The dotted regions are the cytoplasmic regions. And this is a longitudinal section. The longitudinal section, you can see the cells are quite columnar in shape, and also you can see the primary cell wall, vacuole, intercellular spaces. These about parenchyma, and now let us continue with the next simple tissue. The tissue is called as the collenchyma. Unlike the parenchyma, the collenchyma also have the cells that doesn't have any spaces, and also it has a lot of depositions called as hemicellulose or pectin. Generally the shapes are oval, spherical, polygonal. You learn about all these shapes of cells in your future classes, but generally they're based on the shapes as well. We have classified the collenchyma. So the main function of this is to provide the mechanical support. The more collenchyma present in a structure, in a tissue, it will have more mechanical ability. That means they can be able to resist a lot of winds, and they can be able to come back to its normal position. Let us look at the structure of the collenchyma here. So here it is, the collenchyma. So this is angular collenchyma. You can see the vacuole and here the thickening. So the pectin thickenings are there, and you can see at the edges of cell wall most of the thickenings are there, and nucleus you can see here, then the protoplasm. And this is a longitudinal section, almost appears like the parenchyma, but the differences are the angular thickenings that enable the plant to acquire the strength. So that's about the collenchyma. And next we can look at the sclerenchyma. So unlike the parenchyma and collenchyma cells, the sclerenchyma cells are mostly dead, and they'll have the special substance called lignin. So one of the hardest part of the plant, and this is going to compose the dead cells, dead parts of the plant body. So mostly as the plant gets more age, the sclerenchyma depositions will be increased, and that's why these are going to provide a strong mechanical support of the organs. And based on the shapes, we have classified the sclerenchyma into two major types. One is called as the fibers, another one is called as sclerites. The fibers are two types, the thick-walled and the elongated and pointed ends, actually considered as the sclerenchyma fibers, and the sclerites refers to the spherical, oval or cylindrical in shape, and also they have highly thickened cells and very narrow cavities. Generally these can be found in the walls of the nuts and pulp of guava, pear, sapota, and then coconut shell is also one of the example for sclerites. So let us try to look at the image of it. So here you can see the different types, the sclerenchyma fiber, and I hope you can recall the structure of cell wall. So you can see the cell wall is mostly composed of the substance called lignin. So you can always remember lignin. So lignin, it almost refers to the stone. So it is very strong enough, and this is a sclerenchyma fiber. You can see the lignified thick wall and the narrow lumen. So this is fibrous part. This is a structured one, where it refers to the other type called the fibers and the sclerites. And here you can see the simple pit and then a branched pit. I think I did not discuss about this in class. The pits refers to the gaps in the membrane. So you can see how the broaded pits are here. Zoom it a bit. So here you can see the middle lamellae with the membranes, and then the pit is a zone where the exchange of materials will take place. So these are the simple pits, and in the branched pits you can see it will be between the both of the cells. Okay, it's nothing but some junctions or some communication regions between the membranes of the cell. Alright, so let us try to understand about the next type of tissues. And then the next type of tissue we're going to learn about is the complex permanent tissues or complex tissues. The complex tissues are made up of the more number of cells. That means they have more number of cells and they are very much involved in producing different substances, different functions in a specific way. And the two different complex tissues we're going to learn about is the xylem and the phloem. So both of these compose the specific system of tissues called as the vascular tissue. The vascular tissue generally helps in the transportation of substances. So first the xylem. So xylem has a main function to produce, to support or to allow the water passage. And here you can see the root, stem, and leaves are connected with this xylem network, and also it plays major role in mechanical support, as the xylem has nearly three different components, three different dead components, only one living component. So it allows the plant to pass the water continuously. Here you can see the different components. So first is the tracheids, second one is vessels, third one is xylem fibers, fourth one is the Xylem Parenchyma, which is the only living thing inside the xylem tissue. So the tracheids are long tube-like structures, and the cells are dead without the protoplasm, and cell walls have a lot of thickenings. And next you can see the vessels. So vessels are again tube-like structures, and they have many cells inside them, and even these are lignified cells, and they have lots of perforations, the spaces where the water can move from place to place, or one part to another region, and that's why the tracheids have thickenings. And then you can see the vessels. So I'm sorry, so vessels I think we already done. So xylem fibers, as you can see the term fibers, so these are long stretched regions of the xylem. So you can also see it has a central lumen, either septate or aseptate. So septation refers to the branches are rooming. So if there is septum, means a covering, so it is called a septate, otherwise aseptate. And finally the xylem parenchyma. So here you can see all of these are thin walled, and the cell walls are made up of cellulose, and they help in storing of food, starch or fat in some regions. I think it could be temporarily. Alright, so let us observe the image of the xylem. Okay, here it is. So you can see different parts. So xylem parenchyma, and the images are clearly seen here. The bordered pits, the pits that allow the passage between the adjacent cells, and the multiple perforation plates. So here through this the liquids can easily flow through, and here it can be exchanged with the adjacent cells or cell wall regions. So this simple perforation and these multiple perforation plates. Next tissue we're going to learn about is the phloem. So phloem is a tissue that is purely dedicated, and it will allow the passage in both directions, particularly in a cell. So the main function of this is to transport the organic materials or food materials all over the plant. And it is composed of four different elements. So first is called as the sieve tube elements and companion cells, the phloem parenchyma, and then the phloem fibers. So first, sieve tube elements. If you try to compare the elements around all these elements except one element is dead, I mean it's formed of the dead tissue, so where other three are living, right? So it is very important. And here you can see the sieve tube elements. They are long tube-like structures arranged longitudinally, and they are associated with the companion cells. So always remember, companion is friend. So here the sieve tube always have the support of the companion cells, so where its only function is to provide the nucleus support. So whenever due to accidental causes, if the cell loses sieve tube elements, the companion cells are going to produce them. So that's about these two cells. And phloem parenchyma, the associated parenchyma cells with phloem, they are also like They also tapering cylindrical cells. They have very much cytoplasm and nucleus, and they also show the specific function to store food materials. And also, additionally, some of them they can be able to store the resins, latex, or mucilage, which could be absent in the monocotyledons. The resins and latex are few substances that are obtained. About the sap of the plant. So there could be some changes in the sap of the plant, and they will be secreted out. It could be waste material for the plant, or even sometimes it could be to protect itself from the herbivores. All right, so you can see, you can observe the phloem here. So first region is the sieve tube element. So you can see the sieve plate and then the sieve tube element, and here you can see the companion cell. So all the sieve tube element, you can see it's nearly have the companion cell. That's why it's named as companion cells. And the phloem parenchyma as well. So as you see, it has large gaps, and you can see acceptate. So acceptate means it won't have any stopping points like this. It will be continuous. So this is about phloem parenchyma, and here I try to make you understand how actually the transportation happens in both xylem and phloem. So first step is the water will be pulled inside the plant with the help of the transpiration. So first part is transpiration. You can see the water molecules are moving up, and while it's moving, it can be able to shed with the adjacent parts. Okay, so it will be moving up, at the same time the water will be coming down to distribute to different parts of the uh, plant. And when it is happening, the H2O will be transferred to the phloem, and where to osmosis. And here you can see the phloem sieve tube member, and the sugars are being transferred to different parts of the cells. Okay, so here you can see whenever the sugar is produced in the leaf, it will be given to the phloem, and phloem is going to bring it down, and it will be stored in different parts of the plant. So it will be done by active or storage cells. So it could be a fruit, it could be a leaf, it could be a root, so based on the plant modification. Alright, so this is about the working of the phloem and xylem. And finally we have about the epidermal, the tissue systems. So the tissue systems are three different types of tissue systems are there, based on uh, regions they cover, based on the functions they have. So first is the epidermal tissue system, that covers the outer region of the cell, and it is covered with a specific substance called the cuticle, and it has the stomata. And ground fundamental tissue systems. So ground fundamental tissue systems will have the parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. And then vascular or conducting tissue systems will include the xylem and phloem. I think there was a question in class by someone. I did not answer it. He did not remind me again. So let me tell you here. So cambium. So what is meant by cambium? So cambium is a substance. This is going to be formed between the xylem and phloem. So what happens is there is xylem and there is phloem. The substance which will be produced each and every time when xylem and phloem are going to divide. Okay, so let me give you some diagram like this. So the special substance is separating the xylem and phloem is called as the cambium. Alright, so these about the different tissues. As I promised, I'll show you some animation. Here we go. Click to continue, and we want to learn about the stem. So you can see the terms here: the epidermis, cortex, fibers, phloem, cambium, xylem, and phloem. You can see the water and sugar molecules movement. The yellowish region refers to the cambium here. So More clearly you can see that. So cortex is like ground region where you can see a lot of xylem and phloem. Sorry, the parenchyma and collenchyma are covered. Okay, so this is the leaf structure, its tissues, and here you can see epidermis more clearly, the cuticle and then very close epidermal cells.